So the very first property manager that I ever took care of when I became a sales executive at Avalara is in Osceola County, and she had no idea. And her tax bill has been over $100,000 for her business that she just started a couple years ago because she thought the platform was taking care of anything and there were no additional steps. They don't make this information easy for y'all to get.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the STR Investing Podcast. I am your co-host, Mark Lumpkin, and this week we are talking about something that is very important. It's something we should all be doing. It's probably something we are all doing incorrectly. I almost guarantee it. And so I'm really excited to have Julie on the podcast. Julie, would you say hi to everybody?
Hi to everybody.
So Julie, guys, is with Avalara. They do the lodging tax compliance. We will get into all of that here in a little bit, but it's something we really all need to know about. So I'm excited. We've never had you on, Julie, and this is your first podcast, right?
This is my first podcast ever. Thanks for making it an easy experience, Mark.
Of course. You are going to crush it. This is going to be super fun. Would you start off by just giving us a little bit of background about you, who you are, where you're from, how you got into the short-term rental industry?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for the invite again, Mark. I'm Julie Banting Rogers. I live in Orlando, Florida, so pretty apropos for the short-term rental industry. I live here with my husband. We have a pit bull, and we've been here for a few years now. I've been with Avalara for 2.5 years, doing short-term rental tax compliance, but before that, I've been in the hotel industry, the entertainment industry. I was even in a property management company myself at one point. So I've done a lot in the hospitality industry over the years. Now I'm trying to make tax compliance easy for short-term rental operators.
I love that. And Orlando is like the mecca of hospitality, right? I mean, Orlando, it has 40,000 short-term rentals. It's really one of the biggest markets, and obviously there's all the reasons to go to Orlando, the theme parks, the cruise ships leaving out of there. There's a lot of stuff happening for sure. Are you born and raised there, or where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Long Island, New York. My family tried to escape the snow when I was small, so I've been in Florida for about 30 years of my life. At this point, my blood is thin and I cannot do the cold anymore. So Florida for the rest of my life.
I love it. I'm a Florida refugee too. I moved to Florida to escape the cold as well, and I think there's a lot of people that have either done that or they wish they can do that as well. And so I'd love to circle back on just like your time in the short-term rental industry. You talked about being with property management companies, and I think you were with Expedia for a while as well. And so just like, would you talk us through your experience and what you learned in doing that and how that started to translate into what you guys are doing now?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's funny, my parents owned a restaurant up in New York. Other reasons you leave the family, like the state like New York, is you got to get out of the family business. And the way to get out of the family business is to get all the way out of the family business. So I was raised in restaurants with a hospitality background, and just that everybody deserves to feel like they're home when they're in your home type of setting. Whether that's a restaurant or a hotel or anything else that I've done. Worked for Hilton for a while, did a whole lot of stuff while I was in college, some random odds and ends, but it always ended up coming back to restaurants, hotels, short-term rentals. And then you had mentioned Expedia. I was on a team that actually sold tickets to theme parks in Orlando. So not the Expedia.com that everybody is used to, but we were a much smaller branch of them serving the Orlando market directly. So I've seen the hospitality industry just boom and grow. I helped it through the COVID era when everything was shut down, and just really getting out there with my hospitality brothers and sisters and getting through that all together. And now I'm on the software side of things. So that's been an interesting transition because I can speak short-term rental, but I did not come into Avalara being able to speak tax compliance. It was just something that kind of happened when I was in the industry. So I never knew how deep and complex this thing can be.
For sure, for sure. And I think that you mentioned it a few times, like you call it the hospitality industry. And we have a lot of people listening in that are first-time investors or are just thinking about getting into this space. And a lot of them have like real estate experience, right? They've bought and owned long-term rentals, storage units, things like that. But this industry is very different, where you have the real estate piece. You're investing in a piece of real estate property. The location matters, the size, all that stuff is important. But the hospitality piece of it is really the unknown piece, and it's super important, and it's what differentiates homes. And kind of dictates who does well and who doesn't do well. And so and then you're also working for a company that is this major conglomerate that does taxes and accounting and all this stuff that's basically number punching. And so how do you think about delineating between like the hospitality space, the real estate space, the tax space, and like how do you separate those two things? Because they're different sides of your brain, and there are a lot of people that can do numbers on a spreadsheet, but don't know how to respond to a guest at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're upset because they can't get in the door and things like that. How do you differentiate those things in your mind, and what experience have you learned from that?
That's a great question. For me, it's all about taking each individual conversation and situation and just responding to it in the best of my ability and knowing your target audience, know your guests, know your customer. I know which one of my customers just need a short, sweet email from me that's one sentence, here's what you need. And I know the ones that need a little bit more love, care, and attention and wants to know what I'm doing with their, what our team is doing with their property. And they want to know the process and let us do it for them, but they want to know what's going on. And I'm sure it's something that you see a lot in your industry too, right? The way that the home looks, the way that it's invested it's very important. And the way that you're going to be speaking to your guests is important. But do what you're good at. To answer your question more directly, if I'm not good at speaking to people, then I'm probably going to offload that to someone else. I'm pretty good at speaking to people as a Julie, but sometimes I'm not so good at all of that research that goes in. So we've got another set of people who are really good at the research piece of what we do, but don't necessarily want to talk to the people and be the face of your account or your company. So I think it's really knowing what you're good at, what you can delegate to others, and what you can delegate to a software, an AI, a different company to handle that for you.
I love that. Perfect transition to my next question, which is what are you guys good at, right? Talk to us about what you guys do. Because people are like, all right, we're 6 minutes in, 7 minutes in. All right, what do these guys do? You said tax compliant. Am I talking about income tax? Am I talking about state tax? And we've had those conversations. Obviously, the bonus depreciation, the material participation, there's some unique tax advantages to buying short-term rentals, but that is not what you guys do. So what do you guys do?
Sales and use tax is what we do and what we do really, really well. Avalara as a whole, we've been in the market for a little over 20 years now, helping all sorts of industries with their sales and use tax compliance. So this can be retail, it can be e-invoicing over in Europe, and in my world, it includes short-term lodging tax and compliance, which is the taxes that your guest pays on their stays. So this is not anything that should be coming out of an owner's pocket, even though I've seen it before. These taxes should not be coming out of your pocket as the owner or the operator. This is the tax that your guest pays as part of their stay, but it's your responsibility to make sure that it gets to the correct jurisdiction.
I love it. Okay, so people are scratching their head right now. A lot of them are scratching their head going, okay, what in the heck are you talking about? And I deal with this every day where people are like, they're investing in short-term rentals. A lot of them have never even stayed in a short-term rental, and some of them stayed in a few, but your taxes are buried in all the fees, right? You book on Airbnb and it's like, all right, I'm paying $300 a night. You don't read the 3.5% state tax. You don't read the 2.2% local tax. You don't read the cleaning fee. You just like, all right, my total for the stay is $2,500. Boom. What happens after the guest books on an OTA? And what happens to that money? Where does it go?
It goes in, Mark, it's my favorite answer. It depends. So it depends on a few different things, but let me give a real basic example real quick so we can all get on the sales and use tax. You go to, we're Floridians, you go to Publix, you buy a carton of eggs, right? I'm going to use a really low number. Sorry, y'all. Those carton of eggs used to be $1 back in the day. So you buy a carton of eggs and it's $1 on the shelf. You go over to check out and it's all of a sudden $1.07. That 7 cents is the sales tax that you pay on those eggs. Well, Publix has to go give that 7 cents along with all the other 7 cents to the state. You see a better breakdown on a receipt than you might see on your Airbnb stay, but it's the same exact thing. Your room cost was $100, then your cleaning fee might be $50, and then you do that for a few nights, and then we slap, like you said, it could be 3% here, 4% here, 6% here, 20% there onto it for the guest to pay. And that's not always going to the same place. So Some jurisdictions will break it down. You might need to give some of it to a state, a county, a city. Some of your listings, Airbnb, might be remitting money to a state for those listings. So it, it all depends on the jurisdiction, on the way your short-term rental is set up, on where you're booking it. That's part of what we try to make easy because it's a lot of detail.
Okay, perfect. So a booking comes in through like a platform on Airbnb, and Airbnb pulls out some money for taxes for the state or local or whatever happens, but that money never comes to the host. You never get those funds. And so, how do you guys help decide, dictate, tell us, make sure we're compliant, make sure the money's going to the right place? Because many of us hosts are just, this is out of sight, this is out of mind. I'm counting on Airbnb to do this, but we know that they're probably not doing everything correctly. And so, how do you guys, what's the X's and O's of this? How do you guys process these transactions?
Great question. So for us, it's pretty easy. All you have to do as an owner is say, hey, Julie, I did a booking. It was $100 and we're going to go and take care of the rest. And that's still, you can still see a little out of sight and out of mind on that. What's really going on the back end here, though, is Airbnb. I'm going to use my own home address here in Orlando, Florida. I'm going to use the Osceola County District. That's right in the middle of that Disney country. Um, there is a 6% Florida sales tax, a 1.5% Osceola County sales surtax, and then a 6% Osceola County tourist development tax. So your guests should be paying 13.5%. Now, 7.5% of that, the sales taxes, Airbnb has permission from the state of Florida to remit those tax dollars to the state, and it will do that. And then it will send you, Mark, that last 6%, so you can remit that 6% to the county on your own. Our software is going to take care of all of that detail for you, and we're just going to say, on your $100 booking, you owe us $6 so that we can go give this to and do all the paperwork on your behalf. Go give this to the
How many
county.
hosts have properties out there that don't know that only half of their taxes are getting remitted, and they just think that they have an extra payout in their payout, right?
So the very first property manager that I ever took care of when I became a sales executive at Avalara is in Osceola County, and she had no idea. And her tax bill has been over $100,000 for her business that she just started a couple years ago, because she thought the platform was taking care of anything and there were no additional steps. They don't make this information easy for y'all to get.
That's just absolutely crazy. And we're talking about Airbnb, for all their faults, at least they're remitting the 6% and they're charging the 13% to the guest, and they're giving you the money and saying, hey, you're supposed to do this, but they're not going to hold your hand and say, hey, did you pay your taxes? They're just going to do it in a one lump sum payout. What about the other platforms, right? People are getting from booking.com, VRBO, there's thousands of OTAs. And then what about your direct booking site? And so if people have got problems with Airbnb remitting their taxes properly, I couldn't imagine that all your different platforms is even possibly manageable. So how do you guys plug and play with all the different platforms, the PMSs, and make sure that that $100 that comes in on booking.com might have a different tax structure and different payout structure than Airbnb, because Airbnb's already paid part of it out?
Yeah. If you are a property manager and you have multiple properties, and this is something that's going to apply to you a little bit more, I use a property management software. I'm kind of all over the place. Please talk to one of us before you go all signing up willy-nilly, so that we can make sure that your account is configured correctly so that we can do the correct amounts for you, right? We want to make sure that everybody is on the same page and has the same information. So that's probably step one for us when we're going through that onboarding piece is where are you located? What jurisdictions are you in? Do you even know? Some people don't even know exactly where their properties are located. So first step for us is always research.
Yeah, it's crazy. And now you're bringing up the point of where's your property located, right? You might have multiple properties very close to each other, and they might fall in different jurisdictions, and they might have different tax rules. And so you guys really are basically, if I have one property or if I have 100 properties, your guys' software and your tools are basically putting all that together for me. And then how does it come to me as the user? Does it come to me in a monthly report? Do you guys just remit those taxes right away? How does the execution happen on this?
Yeah, we are integrated today with Streamline and OwnerRez. So if you're on either of those two property management platforms, it's a set it and mostly forget it model. Julie will always advise that you double check the numbers. But it's a set it and mostly forget it model, and all of your bookings are going to flow right into My Lodge Tax. If you're not on one of those two platforms, it's a very easy upload of a spreadsheet that pretty much breaks down your bookings. Most property management systems give you a really friendly version of this report, and then you just drop the data into our format and upload it. It takes our property managers under 5 minutes and avoids all of the, I have to go to this jurisdiction, I have to file this paperwork, I have to file this paperwork, even though Airbnb has remitted taxes. That's a thing. They're still going to want their filings anyway. So all of that rest of the stuff is taken care of. All we need is to know the revenue.
Very interesting. Okay, so do you guys send like a statement and then that owner has to send that check to the municipality? Do you guys send the funds directly? Who holds the funds? Does the owner, property owner, manager still hold those funds?
Yeah, so you technically, as a property owner manager, you would hold those funds until we're ready to remit them. We do ask for permission to connect with a bank account. They don't let us pay taxes on credit cards, unfortunately. So part of setup is to ask for permission to access a bank account so that we can draw those liabilities and pop them into the correct jurisdictions.
Are those usually owed once a year? Are the state, local taxes, are those usually just owed once a year?
Oh, my friend, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, yearly. It depends on the jurisdiction. It depends on sometimes how much revenue you're doing. So something like let me use Hawaii as a great example of this. Depending on how much revenue you're bringing through your property, you may be anywhere from quarterly to an annual filer, and they like to change that on you when you hit thresholds. So they're one of those states that things can just change at the drop of a hat, and you may not have caught the notification.
Okay, interesting. There's what's crazy and what's so going to be so eye-opening about this episode is that I have a feeling that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that most people that find you guys just have no idea about any of this stuff. They're like, wait, what are you talking about? And so what are the consequences of this? Like there could be some decent consequences if you don't do this stuff. Like you said, the lady who owes $100,000. Like, I mean, are they putting liens on her properties and stuff? Like, how is this lady going about this?
Yeah, thank goodness she figured it out before that part, right? We had somebody before my time, somebody had come in and they were being audited and they owed, I think it was about $250,000 of back taxes to the point where there were liens on the owner's properties. The owners assumed the property managers were taking care of it. The property managers had no idea what they were supposed to be doing. And then all of a sudden there was a $250,000 tax bill with all the penalties and interest, and the state pretty much saying, well, you didn't do it. So yeah, that was a mess that was cleaned up right before I came on, because that was the big story when I got into Avalara.
Crazy. On the OTA side, I know every jurisdiction is different, but on like on state taxes, are state taxes normally owed once a year, and does Airbnb remit them once a year, or do you know if they're just paying them out on every individual booking?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's monthly or quarterly. So I'll use Florida. Florida wants your sales tax report every single month. And that doesn't matter who you are. If you've got one property, if you're Airbnb, or Florida wants it every single month from you. A state like a Massachusetts, they want it quarterly, and that's just how they want it. So it's all going to depend on the jurisdiction. It's always going to be changing. And the only way to really stick with it is to do the research yourself or pay somebody to keep you informed. Crazy.
Okay, this is super eye-opening. What else do we need to know, right? Because I think a lot of people listening in are like, oh, I didn't know that, my county or my municipality or this HOA or this neighborhood had any of this other stuff. I thought that all my taxes were being remitted on behalf of the OTAs, on behalf of me for the OTAs. So what else are we missing? There's got to be more stuff, right?
Yeah, it's funny. We did a survey late last year, and one of the facts that I find so fun is we asked this question of which piece of this whole compliance picture makes you stay up at night, essentially. And out of 100% of people, 37% answered understanding tax codes, 37% said filings, 35% said managing different rates, 35% said registering jurisdictions. So I don't know if you've been doing the math at home, but we're over 100% right now. There's not one single thing that bothers anybody more than anybody else. It's a culmination of all of it in this lodging tax compliance picture. And we've only talked about filing and remitting. We didn't even talk about the paperwork that goes into setting these tax accounts up. So it's understanding the whole big picture of being compliant, what licenses, what permits, what registrations, what tax accounts are needed to be 100% compliant. And somebody's got a problem with one piece of all of it out there.
Very interesting. What do people do the if like the OTA isn't charging the extra taxes? So like I guarantee they're not perfect, right? So if you say, hey, the state of Florida has a 6% tax, but this county has a 2% additional tax. If Airbnb isn't charging that, are people sending the guest additional fee after the fact, after they book? Are they just eating that as part of their margin? What do most hosts do in that instance?
A couple different routes you can take. Now, I was a property manager way back. It was a few years ago, so I've not seen the back end of Airbnb in probably 5 years at this point. But there used to be an area that you can add an additional tax and kind of freehand it. That's probably your first best option to make sure that it is being charged to the guests if Airbnb missed it. Um, I don't know, depending on your situation, you may have a customer account manager or somebody that you can speak to make sure that those taxes are applied moving forward. But if it's not on their site, it's your responsibility to make sure it's on there some way, shape, or form.
Crazy. This is definitely not the
Crazy.
fun. It is not the funnest conversation to have, but it's super valuable and super important. The topic itself is like, oh, this is scary and this is gonna eat into my profits, but you've got to do it. It's just inevitable, like gravity, that you can't deny it. And so get your taxes figured out, guys. It's very complicated. Obviously, you guys have a great service. What do people do if they're not on a PMS like OwnerRez or what you said the other one was?
Streamline.
Streamline. If they're not on one of those PMSs, can they still use your service? How do they go about doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can still use the services. It's just an easy spreadsheet upload to our system once a month at that point with your revenue totals on it. We're happy to help you pull that information if you've never had to do that before. We're happy to teach you exactly what we need and don't need on the reporting. But most of my property managers, it's under 5 minutes compared to the hours they typically spend trying to reconcile these reports.
For sure. Okay, what's the worst? Let's go to something maybe fun, some fun stories. You mentioned one story of someone way behind, but what are the instances of places that are super confusing or the you know if the state of Florida is pretty straightforward, it's just 6% and you got your 1% local tax. That can be pretty easy to at least understand for some people. Are there some situations that are just super complex and you're just like, this one makes your head spin thinking about owning a property in this market?
A few of them come to mind for me. I'm going to shout out to my friends in Hawaii. And it's pretty straightforward to get registered in Hawaii. Maybe that's just because I've helped plenty of people out there before. But what's not so straightforward is you've got multiple returns due, possibly every month. They could change your filing frequencies out of seemingly nowhere to me and you. Um, and they don't allow any other platform to do any of the remittance on behalf of the properties. So they have said no Airbnb, no VRBO, no booking. It all has to come from the owner's tax accounts, and it needs to be remitted by either the owner, the property manager, or a service like ours. And that's it. So where it's not as complicated to get started, keeping up and staying compliant in Hawaii is hard.
All right, good to know. And I'm sure every island is different in Hawaii.
Of course, you get the gist of it. Every jurisdiction's a little different.
All right, what's the worst situation you've seen somebody in? What's the worst compliance situation that you've seen on your time on the job?
I'm talking to somebody right now. Hopefully, we get him in here by the end of the month. But at the very beginning of our conversation, he said that he's been operating for 18 months and has not done a thing in this realm. So not only do we have to open up everything on his behalf and get him compliant moving forward, but now there's going to be a big lift of getting everything from the past all completed. So that's not only penalties and jurisdictions, fines for being late, but that's also fees to an accountant or an accounting firm or somebody like us to complete this work for you. And going back that far in your records, what were my bookings? What were my totals? We need to do all of that calculation for him. And we don't even know what the tax bill is looking at right now. We just know it's about 18 months worth of business. So Could be a few dollars, it could be a few $100s, but I think it's going to be in a few $1,000 range. And then, like I said, penalties and interest.
Crazy. Okay, good to know. This was super interesting. Thank you for filling me in on a lot of these details, and everybody listening in that probably honestly didn't even know about this, which is, it's crazy that something so important in the industry, and even myself included, like I didn't know any of this stuff. And so that's why I've seen you at events. It's always been fun to chat, but we've never really had a chance to sit down and really talk through exactly what you guys do. And I would guess most hosts or property managers that are running this as a business don't know about this and aren't doing it, then I would guess most individual investors who own 1 or 2 or 3 properties certainly don't know about it as well. And so, Julie, thanks for shedding some light on that. Is there any, before we move on to just the next kind of topic and things we're going to talk about, is there any words of wisdom, any advice you want to leave people with as we move on from what you guys do?
If your head is spinning at the end of the last 20 minutes here with me and Mark, then give us a call. I'm happy to look at your specific situation, your specific jurisdiction, and go through some of this information. It's taken me 2.5 years to be able to speak about this like this, and there are definitely jurisdictions that I don't know off the top of my head. So this stuff is hard. Please get help.
Okay, we'll get some help for sure. All right, so let's talk about the short-term rental industry, just like as a whole. Like, you've obviously seen firsthand the problems that people are dealing with, but what is your thoughts on the future? And just like where are we going? We've got AI here. We've got a lot of new investors coming in. We've got a pretty hot travel market. People are traveling again, doing fun things. How are you feeling about the industry as a whole?
I love where the hospitality industry is, especially in the US right now. We've got World Cup fever going on right now. We've got a ton of international travelers coming to our country right now. We're showing them some great hospitality, as we were bringing up earlier, just being so welcoming. And I think it's a real good vision of what this industry is going to be, because everybody that I've talked to is all full for the World Cup. So as people are experiencing your homes and your short-term rentals, I think it's just going to continue to boom that industry. I saw our tax changes report. Avalara does a tax changes report every single year. And I saw on last year's, I think it was projected like an 11% increase year over year in just the short-term rental market alone. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. So if you're nervous about starting, or maybe I want to do this, that growth is there. The potential is there. And people are loving the homes.
I love that. That's so cool. Are there any extra taxes? Are any like municipalities charging any extra money for the World Cup? Have you seen that yet?
Actually, so no, nothing extra. Some actually have relaxed some of their policies a little bit for the short period of the World Cup. I don't expect this kind of grace period to be here forever. So if you caught World Cup fever and you want to extend your rental, there may be some extra paperwork for you to do later on. But I don't know, man. I'm just here to hang out, see some cool homes, and get into soccer right
That's
now.
awesome. I love it. Have you been catching the games? Are you guys rooting for anybody in particular?
I'm rooting for everybody who's having a great time out there. So I've been just enjoying the viral videos coming out. I'm a big sports girl. I'm not a huge soccer fan, but just been enjoying the love that everybody has been showing across the country.
That's awesome. It's definitely been a great, very short season of all these cool sports. You had the Stanley Cup, you had the NBA Finals, you had the White House UFC event, you got soccer going on everywhere. There's just been a lot of sports in the last couple of weeks. So that's been great for travel. I hope that everybody's capitalizing on the World Cup and getting some huge bookings in, making a little bit of extra money. Julie, what's the best way for people to reach out to you? They're listening to this, they're scratching their head, they're going, oh, I put this on the back burner, or I didn't even know about this. And how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, a couple different ways. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Julie Banting Rogers. It's spelled pretty much like it sounds. And I'm sure, Mark, you'll put some information in the description as well. But an email to myself is great. It's my first name dot my last name. So Julie.Banting, Rogers at Avalara.com. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn. Send me an email. A smoke signal maybe works as well. I'm always on the lookout for those.
We'll make this easy for people. We'll drop all of your links in the show notes so that people can reach out to you on email, LinkedIn, connect with you guys, check out what you do. It's a no-brainer for people that need help because most of us need help, myself included. We'll talk about that offline. But this is super important, guys. This is one of those episodes that many of you listening in probably had no idea about and just thought that all your taxes were being taken care of by Airbnb, VRBO. But there's definitely some state, local taxes, different filing rules that you need to know about. Julie and her team are experts at this. This is all they do every single day. It's not something I would ever want to do. It's probably not something you would want to do if you're listening in, but you find the people that are best at what they do, go hire them. They have the insight track. They'll keep you out of trouble. So Julie, thanks for coming on. This was super fun. I'm glad that we could be your first podcast episode here. And I hope you do many, many more because you guys have a message that a lot of people need to listen to and hear about.
Oh, thanks, Mark, for the platform. And you're amazing. And I wouldn't imagine doing a first podcast with anybody other than you, friend. I'll see you around.
Let's go. We'll see you at the next event. Thanks for coming on, Julie.
Yeah, thank you.